So no Western teams in the quarterfinals. Or excuse me, the semifinals.
It was close.
This year's Worlds. It was close, but none make it there. But despite that, this might be the best performance by the Western teams at a World Championship.
It very well might. And I mean, the one comparison you can draw to maybe say it's not is back in 2015 when both Fnatic and Origen got the semis, but then they both got 3-0'd by Coup Tigers and SK Telecom. And then if you look at who they beat beat Flash Wolves 3-1.
Yep.
And 3-0'd EDG.
Which is impressive.
It is, sure. But in this instance, 3 teams in the quarterfinals forced 2 games 5s, and Fnatic went to 4 games against RNG in a very close series that easily could have gone to 5. So, I mean, even Cloud9 could have swept World Elite in this series. They were up in game 1. If they closed it out, it would have been a nice clean sweep. So, if you're the West, you're like, wow, this is still a good showing. They're, especially for Misfits and Cloud9, Misfits specifically, man, they pushed SKT to the limit. They showed some crazy things, some crazy adaptation. The West bringing out all kinds of weird picks. Leona, the Blitzcrank, Singed, Jensen first time early in Seoul. They were not afraid to try new things, and that's kind of a new thing from the West, is adapting, trying something new, being innovative. Something TSM never does, is be innovative.
Never.
So I was just impressed with what the West brought. They really went all out in this quarterfinal stage in an attempt to beat these top tier teams, and they were damn close.
Yeah, so the main argument against this being the best performance for Western squads in Worlds is, I mean, SKT looks the weakest they have at Worlds probably, which again is still at the very least going to be a top 14 in the world, which they are even when they're slumping, I would say. And I mean, RNG and World Elite, oh, they're not even the top seeds from the LPL, but I mean, they both looked fantastic in the final weeks of the group stage, so very impressive they were competitive. The West teams were competitive against them. And yeah, that 2015 year we mentioned, sure, SKT and the Coup Tigers were pretty amazing. They were playing at super high levels, and definitely higher level for SKT than they are at this tournament. But I mean, then they just get swept. EDG, or not EDG, Fnatic and Origen just get swept in the semifinals. It's not that close. Last year, H2K in the semifinals, not close, 3-0 sweep. Yeah, the West has gotten to the semifinals before, but it's just really because of the luck of the draw. In these quarterfinals, they were playing actually some of the top teams. There wasn't an easy draw. They were second seeds across the board, so they had to play group winners, and they definitely put up legitimate showings, and you could make an argument that all 3 of those Western seeds had a chance to come out ahead in that series. So I think it is the best performance from Western teams at Worlds. You throw in the fact that G2 was in a group that could potentially feature the finalists from Worlds as the 2 that got out of their group, and they put up good showings against Samsung, and they beat RNG. Probably should have beat them twice. So I don't think G2 had a disappointing performance. It's pretty much only TSM and Immortals who had disappointing performances.
Exactly. 4 of the 6 Western teams, I would say, looked pretty damn good. I mean, TSM's the only one where you can be like, they probably should have done a lot better. And even teams were saying, you know what, almost all these Western teams perform better on stage than in scrims, except for TSM. So I don't know if that's a shot at them, or maybe saying they look better in scrims and then can't perform on stage. Again, we know sometimes Doublelift has these anxious moments on stage that results in bad play, and TSM just not as proactive as they are in these scrims, whereas all these other teams kind of channel it and say, you know what, this is it, let's go for it. And they definitely did. Again, these strange picks. So yeah, you mentioned G2. I don't think you can say they had a disappointing performance, because RNG and Samsung, 2 of the group members, sitting in the semifinals, Samsung coming off a 3-0 against Longzhu, and RNG, one of the nicer looking teams this tournament. So they kind of got unlucky in that group stage draw. But yeah, if you're the West, you got to be like, all right, sure, no one's in the semis, but what more could you ask for in that quarterfinal stage? Some of the best series I've ever seen.
Absolutely, and anytime you're not just getting 3-0'd, it's amazing.
It's a plus.
Now, you can say the gap is slowly closing between the East and West, but the only problem is, I mean, you had about as good a draw and Worlds as you were going to hope for here, with 2 Korean teams meeting in the quarterfinals, Longzhu getting upset, SKT looking as weak as they have in a couple seasons now. So you're not going to get that kind of perfect storm again going forwards at Worlds to actually make some noise. But maybe the competition, this whole franchising thing, maybe that ups the competition, and the gap will continue to close. But you got to think Korea is going to look better at next Worlds.
I mean, you'd probably think so. The only problem is you don't know what rosters are going to come together in North America. It could be another LMQ situation where you're sending a team that's not so North American.
Bring Faker over.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. But I'd still like to see more international tournaments because it's probably about 6 or 7 months till the next one at MSI, which is
All-Stars.
That does not count.
All-Stars.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great international tournament. But I mean, if you want the gap to close, you need to face these teams more often. And twice a year is probably not going to cut it. So that's kind of tough. Because instead of facing SKT and scrimming against Edward Gaming, you get to scrim against Echo Fox and Team Liquid and face those guys in best of ones week in, week out. So it's not the same level of competition, which definitely hurts any chance of NA EU catching up to what they're doing in Korea and China.
Yeah, and I mentioned Korea looks weaker at this tournament, but I mean, SKT and Samsung could 3-0 the semifinals.
Yeah,
So.
I wouldn't be surprised.